what is the nature of destruction, of what people call evil, or the dark side, the shadow side? What is behind it?
What do you mean, what is behind it?
What is the operating system behind that? How does it work?
Behind evil?
Behind evil, yes. What we're teaching is the conceptual truth of the reality of life is that we are living in a movie. You have to develop the watcher, the part of you that can look at the movie, that can actually look at the whole movie and can stand out and say, oh, I'm watching a movie. I'm watching a movie.
I exist to break your head. I break your suffering. It's just a simulation. It's just a simulation. You can do anything you want to.
Wow.
Anything you want to be, you're free. Don't you know that it's right there? It's right in you. Don't you see?
I can't fight. I can't fight whatever my destiny is. No matter what it is, I can't fight it. Just like Diane said, if it's your time, it's your time. That's just the way that it is. I don't know what my time is, but I have to just accept that really deeply.
What is it calling us to do? What is she calling us to do? What is she calling us to know? Is she calling us to grow?
I think it's happening on a level now with a lot more, there's a lot more alchemists who don't know they're alchemists out there. And I think that's part of what my job is to help awaken the alchemists who are the butterflies.
Right.
It's a new consciousness that we're part of that we're all stepping into. But in order to step into it, it's a new way of being. And it's the mind ego thing has created all that we have now. It's the expansion, it's the patriarchy, it's this whole thing that we've developed. We had to go through this phase of evolution to create what we have. But
civilization.
We're at the end of that. We're stepping into something entirely new.
Maybe it is that huge. We're things that are like really foundational, giant things.
But all that stuff will develop as humanity steps out of the mind ego way and is able to become the watcher of the whole experience and be a perfect light channel of your own particular recipe of life. You know, your own perfect recipe, so that because it's there to it's there to serve the greater evolution of the species.
Hi, Colin Davis, ShadowTechAlchemy.com, SolutioAlchemy.com, MelissaMariMovie.com, and MelissaMariMusic.com. So welcome to the August 11th Tuesday night broadcast that we do here. This is our once a week broadcast that we do. And what we're doing here, basically, if you haven't been around, is I'm basically supporting people who are on the alchemical path, you could say, the self-healers, the wounded healers, the people who are awakening to the movie of life, so to speak. And I'm doing this out of the experience that I gained, you know, on the path generally my whole life, but especially with the 12 years that I spent with Melissa. And you just watched the longer version of the trailer to the movie about Melissa. And it was in that period, and as many of you know, Melissa's not with us anymore, and this is why it's so huge, really, what's happened to me and what my job is now that she's gone, and you know, it's only been 19 months, and so I'm still figuring it out. But there is quite a bit that I know what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to carry on what she was doing, and carry on the mission that we had together. And so that's what this show is about. And you know, I've tried to approach this show, this broadcast from I've tried different things, ways of approaching, speaking to you all, and you know, should it be kind of a lesson, like a class? Should it be a call-in show? You know, it has to get to a certain size. You know, the size of the show kind of dictates what you can do with it to some degree. And so we're working at the smaller level now, but in a way that's the optimal way, because it's more intimate, and we can talk to you guys and interface with you personally that way. And there's time to call in if you want to call in and all of that. So I think it's going well the way it is. But I do come back to, okay, you know, every time I do a broadcast, because every one of these is really an improvisation. I'm going, okay, so where are we? What are we doing? And it's really, I really just keep repeating the same thing over and over again. But I think that's, I'm discovering that is the way most broadcasters are, really. You have your niche, you have your subject matter, and you just keep riffing on it and improvising on it and getting better at doing that. So that's what I'm doing here. Now, I always give you guys some updates, and so there's not much to update. I do want to point you back to my latest paper, which is on the ShadowTechAlchemy.com website. It's on under the papers page, and it's the shaman and the sacred life artist. And I'm going to kind of bring that material back up today. We've been talking about that over the last couple weeks, but I'm going to bring that back up today. And so that's kind of the only real update, other than it's becoming much more clear to me, you know, what I'm doing in terms of putting all of Melissa's material together and putting it out in the world. So that movie that I've made that isn't publicly released yet, it's still being shopped to film festivals, but that will be totally public within several months, and that's sort of just the first project, because eventually I'm going to have the Mari Trust, and basically it's going to be everything that I have collected of Melissa's, all of her music, all of her live performances on video. There's just so much of all of that, and all the not all, but a lot of the conversations that we had, that we recorded, and old podcasts, and just, I'm just going to go through everything and just like really make a best of. And then there's projects that we had in development that weren't finished, like what I'm calling the 0 and the 1, which is the alchemical, it's the story of will and faith, the alchemical couple. And we had that in development the whole time. And that was, I have about half of that screenplay written, and had been sitting there for several years. And we had kind of been going back and forth with it. So that at some point will be finished, and that'll be getting made into something. I have this thing called Mari TV, or Melissa Mari TV, which is going to be live 24/7 streaming, where I'm going to take a lot of this material and I'm going to put it up there into playlists, and you're going to be able to just tune in to this live stream, which will just be going on this current YouTube page. And you'll just be able to sit there and just watch Melissa content. And you'll just really get to know her and what she's all about, and get to kind of imbibe her resonance that way. Because Melissa is the ultimate example, in my mind, of the inner alchemist, and of what I'm calling the sacred life artist. Melissa is just the example I know the best, but really just the perfect example, because she was so absolutely dedicated to the inner work, to the shadow work, and she was just so courageous and brave, and she just made such huge strides, huge steps of development over the course of her life, from being so dedicated to it, and just achieved a very high level of self-awareness, and worked through a huge amount of her complexes, and just understood herself at a very deep level by the time she passed. And so just a tremendous example, and then of the artiste, of the archetypal artist, the essential artist. I mean, I was always an artist, I was always a musician, but when Melissa came into my life, I really got to see what it was like to be around an artiste, around somebody whose whole way of thinking and being and focus and sole purpose was to be an artist. And in her case, a singer and songwriter, performer. Just a tremendous, I mean, everybody that knows of Melissa knows that her, as a performance artist, she's just on 10, on high. And so she's very inspirational just as an artist. But more than just watching her and saying, wow, she's badass. It's more than that, because there's a lot of badass artists out there. But this is someone who really was, she was really able to transmit or at least I could say she was able to teach me, let me say it that way, she was able to teach me what the artist is, what the deepest artist is, the spiritual artist, the sacred artist. And so I learned what I was all along by watching her and listening to her. So when I talk about these roles, these modes of being, the shaman, the alchemist, the life artist, the sacred life artist, these are just ways of trying to express what these roles are, what these states of being are. And she came into my life and was able to show me, okay, this is what you are. This is what it looks like. This is what we do. This is how we sound. This is how we act. This is it. She showed me what the role is, just by being herself around me. So to me, it's just obviously, I had a relationship with her, and a very loving and deep relationship. And so obviously that's part of it, but it's more than that. It's that I'm able to recognize just how much she exemplified this role. So that's some info on Melissa, and I got my notes here for tonight. And tonight, it's just like we're going to keep riffing on the same thing. And what I want to try to say here is this thing about, so if you look at that paper, The Shaman and the Sacred Life Artist, you'll see that I'm trying to figure out what this role is, what this way of being is, what its purpose is, where does it fit into human history, and where does it sit now today? Because there's been enough anthropological research on the shaman of early societies, and kind of what their role was. And it was a multidisciplinary role. And they're the doctor, they're the healer, they're the psychologist, they're the storyteller, they're the artist, they're the psychonaut, they're the priest, they're the initiator. They're all of these things at once. And then over time, these roles became split off and specialized. And then now, especially in the modern world, all of those roles have been not only pulled apart and specialized, but they've lost their sacred dimension. They've become desacralized. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, because all I know is what I am. It's taken me a long time to figure out what I am, actually. And I've had to look at other people, other roles, it's taken years. And finally, when Melissa showed up, that's when I was able to go, oh, okay, I see what I am now. But, so I look at what she showed me, and I go, okay, so now there's two of us. So who are we? What do we do? Where do we come from? What are we supposed to do? What are we all about? What's the greater purpose behind our orientation? And then we find other people that are similarly directed, and we're like, okay, there's more of us, all right. But there's not that many. And there's some people that have some connection to what we're doing, but don't totally connect. Most artists are not doing it shamanically necessarily. They're channeling their own stuff, and they're channeling the collective unconscious, but they're not doing it consciously. And they're certainly not studying it and trying to to consciously play that role. They're just doing it unconsciously. And so this conscious artist, this, you know, what we later called alchemist, this is a modern this is a modern shaman. This is a shamanistic role in the current world, or in the whole civilized world. And so I've been trying to kind of I'm trying to crack the code on this for a long time. And I would always ask Melissa, you know, so what, you know, because she had this term, the life artist. And she'd look at people and she'd be like, that's a life artist, that's a life artist. And I'm like, well, so what is a life artist? And she'd have to think about it and go, well, I guess it's this, I guess it's that. And I would have to kind of go back and question her and, are you sure? Because this and that. And it was always kind of blurry. And I do remember, you know, while she was alive, I do remember finally, probably like 2018, 2019, probably getting to the point of going, okay, so I think I see what you're saying here. So you have the life artist. This is the person who basically uses their artistic lens, artistic way of being, and they put it into everything they do. So their whole life is sort of artified. And I see that, but there's plenty of people that are doing that don't know they're doing it, and they certainly aren't consciously trying to do it spiritually. They're not doing it as any kind of sacred spiritual practice or anything like that. And so I said, so I guess it's more like a spectrum where you have people that as you go towards one direction, they get more and more spiritual or more conscious of what they're doing. And we kind of threw that around, and it's like, does that answer it? Is that kind of... So I'm still kind of struggling with it and trying to map it out and everything. But so what I've kind of come to, and I'm going to actually, I made this, I was talking to Claude, the AI program, and just before the show, and I'm like, okay, let me see if I can kind of print this out. It was in the paper that's on the website, but I kind of put this together, and this is not accurate actually, but it kind of gives you some kind of picture as to kind of what this is and what I've been thinking and all of this. So you can see there you have the shaman, the archetypal shaman, and all of these different subdomains, whether they're the purple ones or the green ones, these were all part of the shaman's role, right? The priest / initiator, the storyteller, the doctor healer, the inventor, the seer mystic, the artist, the psychonaut, the self-healer. So, and for example, if you look at Andrew Camargo's document, which is the 25 facets of the shamanic archetype, or of the shaman archetype, and you can find that PDF on the resources page. It's not linked on the website, but if you go to shadowtechalchemy.com/resources, you'll see that 25 facets of the shaman document, and a lot of good documents are on there. I would recommend everybody look at that and kind of see kind of what kind of sub roles of the shaman feel like they fit you. Don't identify too closely with that, but just look at it and go, okay, like, you know, just you kind of see where you're where you're situated. But if we were to take this as sort of like a general idea of what the shaman's doing, then all those same roles are still have continued on through civilization, right? Through the mystery traditions and through all kinds of mystic and spiritual traditions, you know, all the way. And I'm calling the shaman within civilization, whether it's, you know, late antiquity or whether it's medieval or whether it's modern, I'm calling that the alchemist. I'm basically saying the alchemist is kind of the modern shaman. And this thing that Melissa was and that I am, I'm currently calling the sacred life artist. So that's on the right side there. And it's kind of combining certain modes of the shamanic archetype. And so you have the seer mystic role. You have obviously the artist. You have the psychonaut, or the psychologist, the one who looks inward, and self-healer. These are all kind of the main ones that are kind of involved in this. But I can pick that apart and I can find problems with that immediately. But that kind of gives you some kind of picture as to where does this sacred life artist sit? What is the shaman? What is the alchemist? And you can look at that paper on the papers page at shadowtechalchemy.com. Okay, so let me pull that off. Right. So anyway, I'm just trying to kind of figure this out and go where do we sit and what to do with this. That's been helping me. That's been helping me see more clearly. Okay, that's what this is. It doesn't help with cultural or social alienation that much. It helps a little bit. It kind of helps to be able to go, oh, okay, I see what I am. I see what that's all about. I see where that comes from. I guess it does help. But when there's almost no one on the outside that can look at that and go, oh, yeah, right. Yeah, we need that role. Yeah, oh, I see what that is. Then you're just like, okay, you're just talking to yourself. Luckily, there are some of us that are on this path. You know, some of you visit this show, and so, you know, we can share this amongst ourselves. But we are in a period where we probably are going to go back in. We're probably going to peak or kind of dip up again in the direction of what we used to call the human potential movement that came out of the 60s and 70s. That probably we'll probably see another rise of that orientation. And Melissa thought we would see it earlier. And we thought that we would be part of that movement. And but it just happens a lot slower than we thought. It may be like, if you look at the whole idea of the fourth turning and all of that kind of stuff, it's like an 80 or 100 year cycle. It may be that you only get one big one of those in, you know, every 80 or 100 years. So, you know, I can't say what's going to happen with that. But regardless, who you heard, if you were here in the beginning of this program and I played the trailer for the movie about Melissa, and she said she felt like this was her job, or one of her jobs was to help awaken the other alchemists who don't know they're alchemists. So that is now what I'm doing. And first it's about awakening myself to that. Always was being one, but now recognizing, oh, this is what I am. And now it's like looking for others and talking to you and saying, okay, that's what you are too. And so I'm going to read to you now. I'm going to kind of go through some of my notes here, and you can kind of see how you click with this, because it doesn't matter to me which sort of side of the shamanic archetype you're on. If you're more on if you're more on the seer mystic side, or if you're more down in the the alchemical shadow worker side, or if you're more on the artist side, or if you're more on the storyteller side. I mean, a storyteller is close to an artist, but you know, these are all adjacent to each other. or if you're on the self-healer side, or if you're more on the healing of other people's side, or whatever it is, or if you're more of the, if you're more ritualistic or less ritualistic, if your ritual is more private or if it's more public, all these kinds of things. Everybody's going to be in their own place with these things. It doesn't matter to me. Everybody has their own orientation. But are you somehow under the shaman/alchemist umbrella? And then if you are under that umbrella and you're old enough to be able to go, yes, I've been around long enough to see that must be what I am. That must be what I'm here to do. And you can be in your 20s and be old enough to know that, because there's a lot of people I'm finding out that are kind of waking up early. And so they're 25 and they've been knowing this since they were 15, or questioning it since they were 15, and then they get on the internet and they start doing all this research into esoteric stuff and Carl Jung and all that. They're like, yeah, that's me. So the age exactly doesn't matter, but at some point you're like, okay, yes, this is what I am, this is what I do. And you might not have called yourself a shaman, and there's a lot of people who call themselves shaman and they shouldn't be doing that. Because first of all, the shaman is an ancient role that doesn't really exist anymore in its old form, except to the degree there are still indigenous shaman that are still around in South America, in Africa. They do still exist in Australia or the Pacific Islands, wherever. There are still indigenous shaman doing the exact same thing they always did. They do, but they're not in our society. And if they get in our society, then they lose all that. So what we have is we have roles that come out of that, but that are different, and I'm calling that the alchemist. So before I start reading to you kind of some of the descriptions of at least the version of that's closer to me and Melissa, and you're going to have to kind of, if you're a little bit off to a different side of this, you're going to have to go, yeah, kind of add your own stuff or whatever. Like I said, look at that document by Andrew Camargo, shadowtechalchemy.com/resources, that 25 facets of the shaman archetype. Look at that. Look at that document. You'll see elements of yourself in there. You don't have to take on one of those names and start broadcasting it on social media like, this is what I am, and you don't have to do some kind of you don't have to Americanize it, but you can look at that. So the thing is, what I'm trying to say here is that I want folks who are on this path and who have this orientation to finally get it, that what you're doing and what you're supposed to be doing and the path you're on is very serious. It's a very serious, I don't know what could be even more serious than this. So it's very, very serious. But of course, at the same time, it's extremely, it's extremely spiritual, extremely numinous. It's not in the normal matrix reality at all. It's very alternative to that. It's very needed by matrix people. But they are so kind of alienated from this mode that it has to be they have to be spoon-fed this stuff. And they have to come to it when they're ready. But it's very serious when you realize that there is a small percentage of people who are in this role, less than 1% for sure, who are in this role. And because it's been so, these roles have been desacralized and put underground as the age of materialism has risen, then when it's time for these capacities to come online again, people like us pop up, and we're like, okay, well, where's the others? And there's just not a lot of us yet. So, but you do have to understand, I'm telling you, you do have to understand this is very important what you're doing. If you're oriented in this way, and you just naturally feel this pull in this direction, it's very easy in today's world to get distracted and just be like, yeah, this is my thing, and I feel what he's talking about there, but then just go back to your busy, distracted life or whatever, and that's not going to work. That just can't work. That doesn't work, because you need to maintain a kind of space, an inner and outer space that facilitates this way of being and this lifestyle and your own inner development, and puts you in an environment where you can experience gnosis. And this is what the artist has to do. Even a mundane artist, that they have to isolate themselves from the outer world and from all the chatter and all of that, and get into the flow, and they have to have their artist space. And so those of us that realize that this is what we're doing, we're sacred life artists, we're alchemists, we're on the shaman path in some way or another. You have to consciously carve out a life for yourself, and you have to use your brains. You have to go, okay, how do I do this? Where do I live? How do I keep my cost of living down? What kind of environment do I need to be in? Where am I going to work? How am I going to make money to be able to, because you're in modern society. So you're going to have to make some kind of money, and you're going to have to put a roof over your head and all of that. And then the first mode of this, a lot of people who get into this mode, they immediately jump into, how can I help the world, and how can I sell my services? And it's actually not that's not so pathological. It's kind of normal to think that if you're so committed to this path, and you're reading and you're studying and you're journaling and you're talking with other people on the path, and you're really trying to figure yourself out and figure out the movie of life, so to speak, and that you have been doing this for years, and you've had dark nights of the soul, and you've come out of them, you've come out the other side, and you're wiser and healthier for it. You have a boon. Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. You have a boon. You have something to give back to the world. And so it's natural to want to think, okay, well, maybe I'm a coach. Maybe I'm a some kind of a this or that practitioner or whatever. And to try that and see if that works and everything. But everybody's been thinking of doing that. So it's like, it's a very, very overcrowded kind of thing, because as the traditional society crashes, because it is crashing, everybody's trying to figure out how they can run their own business, do their own thing from home and stuff. And this kind of work is that kind of work. And so you might think, okay, well, maybe I can somehow sell my wisdom, my knowledge, my information, or maybe I can start my own therapeutic practice or whatever. But the thing is that for most of us, that's not going to work. And that might be there might be a place for that. There definitely might be a place for working with other people, and it's good to work with other people, absolutely. But is that going to pay all your bills and all of that? Probably not. And if you spend all your time striving, trying to make a business out of your sacred life art, then you just stop being an artist and you start becoming a business person. And now it's all about how much, how many, your ads on Facebook or whatever the hell you're thinking you have to do. Watch hours on YouTube and all that garbage. So that really isn't the way to go. And that can be tough. Now, for me, I never really, pushed the coaching and all that kind of stuff too hard. I was doing coaching in another field, in a legal field. And that did work for me as a part-time living, but it was not a spiritual field at all. I tried to turn it into that, and it didn't quite click. And so for a number of reasons, I moved out of that field. But so I've always been doing that and working with people, and so I just kind of extended it into this field. But this is something that we run up against. When you think, okay, well, this is an esoteric path, but it's got stuff that, I know stuff that people need. And so maybe I can sell it to them. And I think that it's real, there's a reason why spirituality in general is pretty much always a non-profit endeavor. There's a darn good reason for that. It kind of doesn't mix very well with the materialistic, with the secular, with the economic. And so, but there are ways in which it can work. And you just have to kind of let it do its thing and let it find you. And in the meantime, figure out how you can do something in the matrix, so to speak, that will provide for your financial needs and not suck up all your time and energy and suck you back into the matrix, because that's soul death. So you're gonna have to be creative, you're gonna have to use your brain, you're gonna have to consciously curate your life. And some people will have a partner. You're blessed when you have a partner. I was blessed when I had Melissa. To where you can do that together, support each other, and it makes it easier. So that is one big thing that we all have to kind of figure out. And then it's another reason why we should be talking to each other. Why we should be networking with each other and supporting each other is because, because we need to have community amongst ourselves for all kinds of reasons. So anyway, that's one thing that comes up, is how does this shamanic path, this alchemical path, this life artist path, how does this interface with the mainstream world? And artists of all kinds have always had issues there. That's especially since the modern age. And I'm in America, and we are our sensitivity to art, to the aesthetic, to the way of the artist, and to what art is all about is at an all-time low. And so I'm not saying it's easy, but and everyone's going to have to kind of problem solve this on their own and kind of find a way to do this, and you probably have to keep kind of changing over the years. And so this is one of the biggest challenges for being on this path. But when you know you're on this path, you can't get off it. There's nothing else you can do. So you have to just dedicate completely to it, go all in with it, and then suffer through some of the difficulties, which they all work themselves out. Of course they do. They all work themselves out. So now, so now I want to read you some of these notes to try to, identify yourself on this a little more. And at the top, I have this kind of came to me, note from Melissa. When the ego starts thinking about all the things that you could do with your alchemical gnosis, with your wisdom that's been hard earned, and like I was talking about, making a coaching business or some other kind of business out of it, that's only one of the things the ego is going to think of. How can I help others? How can I help heal others? And all the things that are going to come up. Melissa would say, stay in the artist mode. Don't get into the business of proselytizing. Don't get into the business of pushing any type of ideology or any kind of a system. Stay in the artist mode. And there's, art is very wide. And just make art out of your experiences, your wisdom, and to the degree that you help people, do it through your own experience. This is what I did. This is what's working for me. This is what did work for me. This is my lens, not this is what you should do. That's what Melissa would always say, that kind of stuff. And so now I'm saying that. And I have to always reel myself back in. So the sacred life artist, or the artist alchemist, is the same thing as what Carl Jung would call the individuator. I don't know if he actually said individuator, but the person engaged in individuation, right? That was his term, a little bit confusing term. You'd think at first it means maybe becoming an individual. No, not quite in the traditional sense. It means becoming, it means becoming whole and true to yourself, and finding your true soul path, your true vocation, following your daimon, your inner voice. And it means becoming undivided, individuated, undivided by all of the different scripts from the society that are saying, you should do this, you should do this, you should be this, you are this, you are this. And it's natural. It's natural for the human mind and for society to do that. Like even I was saying, look at Camargo's list of the different shamanic roles. That's the persona, and there's a reason for it. But you don't want to identify too closely with that. And so you don't want to think that you are a fireman, you are a nurse, and therefore you talk like this and you act like this, and this is what you do, and these are the people you hang out with. You want to become the unique individual that you are, right? So, and the individuator is not just becoming an individual and a unique being, just by discarding what society says. They're doing this through the alchemical process, because there's so much buried that you're not going to get to unless you start cleaning up and you start disidentifying and going through the shedding of the ego skin, and that's painful. And the trauma work, the shadow work, and all that's all part of the process. That all has to be done. So when we talk about individuation and what Jung was doing and what Jung was teaching, that's the same path. That's the modern shaman. That's the modern alchemist. It's the same path. Jung's individuation is just his particular path that he figured out. And he didn't just figure it out he figured it out for himself, but he also generalized it and said, how is what I'm doing also general to all humans? So he figured out his own path, and then he gave you kind of a toolkit out of that process that you could use on yourself. Adapt it in any way you need to for yourself. So when you think about Carl Jung and you think about what the Jungians talk about and everything, this is the same path as that. I could easily just demystify all of this and just say, we're just Jungians. That's all this is just we're just Jungians. And Jungians are artists too, and all of this. But when I say that, the problem with that is that pigeonholes it into his concepts, which are great. They're great. Everyone that's on this path should get familiar with those. But it pigeonholes you into that, and then also the Jungians themselves, most of them did not and do not go as deep as they could. Some do. Some are incredible and incredibly deep, and they have not bypassed their shadow. But many of them, the majority of them, still do. Or did and do. And so I don't want to point to Jungians and be like, this is the example of how to be. I'd rather point to Melissa. So anyway, but what we do the inner alchemy. We experience the transcendent, the archetypal. We document it and we make art out of it. Let me say that again. We do the inner alchemy, experience the transcendent, document it, and make art out of it. You see that? We make art out of it. And even when you're writing a paper, like when I'm writing a paper of the shaman and the sacred life artist, that's art. And I'll even say it in the paper that this is just my art. We have to recognize that all culture is basically art. So, but we're consciously doing this. We live in the movie of life. We always stay high in the witness position, watching the movie from the projector room, so to speak. We're not movie goers focused entirely on the screen of experience. We are co-directors, collaborators, improvisers in the movie of life, right? So Melissa and I used that analogy, living in the movie, where we sort of used the movie theater and the movie projection as a metaphor to explain. It's like Plato's cave, to explain how most people are just sitting in the theater of life, and they're just watching the movie on the screen, and it's called the suspension of disbelief. They just suspend disbelief, suspend everything they knew about the rational, normal world outside, and they just fall into the movie, and they let the movie just take them for a ride. That's what a great story does. That's what a great movie does. That's the way it's supposed to work. But most people are doing this about their life. And so their whole life is just going in front of their eyes, and it's just running, and it's running them. And they're thinking that what they see on the screen of perception is objective reality. But it's a projection. It's a projection through the projector, through the film of your own psyche. And what you're seeing has been edited, has been filtered through your own psyche, through your own programs, your own complexes, your biological programs, and the whole biology of the human body, and then all of the pre-programmed, the scripts that came with your family, Oh, this is how we believe in God. This is what a boy should do. This is what a girl should do and look like and act like, and all that stuff that came with us that we just accepted into our operating system. And so, and then all of our natural tendencies and our natural impulses and instincts and reactiveness, we just take it as reality. It's not. We'll never know objective reality. All we'll know is this filtered reality. But the director, or I should say the co-director, nobody's the director. The director is beyond all of this. But the person who's at least striving to be a co-director, a participant, an improviser in the movie of life, can stand back from the whole thing and go, okay, what does this mean? What does this mean? What is this projection? What is this reaction? What is this person who showed up in my life? What is this scenario, this situation that just showed up in my life? What does it mean? Why did this show up? And how does this fit into my movie of life? And so we're witnesses, we're watchers. And then how can I change my own perceptual filters, my own reactivity, my own beliefs, my own scripting to see a different reality? And so we're playing with that. We're artists. And so we're playing with that. We're seeing what we can change, what we can't change. And we're practicing in that. We're going to film school, right? So we're learning how to improvise in the movie of life. Here's another note. As above, so below. We study the outer to understand the inner. We develop the inner to manifest the outer. And this is the primary maxim of alchemy. This is like the first tenet in the Emerald Tablet, right, of Hermes. And so, as above, so below. And so this is the recognition of holarchy. This is the recognition of the way in which the outer world, nature, material reality, the outer world, is related to, reflective of the psyche and the inner state and the body. And the body in the inner state is patterned after motifs in the outer world. So Jung would say these are archetypes. So archetypes that you see in the outer world also are mirrored internally, and it's all one. All is one. This is another Hermetic maxim. And so we're recognizing this inner-outer relationship, and we're looking for it. We're looking for it, and we're keeping an eye on it, and we're studying it. We make maps of meaning for ourselves and art for others out of the breadcrumbs of synchronicity and personal gnosis. We are not symbiotically, we are symbolically literate. So we make maps of meaning for ourselves and art for others. We also make art for ourselves. Out of the breadcrumbs of synchronicity and personal gnosis, we are symbolically literate. So here it's like when synchronicities occur, when numinous experience occurs, when downloads, when gnosis occurs, right? When absolutely meaningful events show up in your movie of life, that's a breadcrumb that you're going to use. It's like I go back to being a musician. It's like when you come upon a good riff. It's like you run upon a good riff and you're like, oh, wow, that's a good riff. I'm going to remember that. And then after a while, you connect good riffs. You find ways to connect good riffs together to where they make a song. And a song is not just a compilation of 5 of your favorite riffs. They have to fit together aesthetically, right? This is what makes a good songwriter, is someone that recognizes what the aesthetic archetypal patterns of a good song are and puts riffs together that fit. And so we're doing that as alchemists. As life artists, we're doing that, and we're keeping track of these synchronicities, of these numinous experiences, and we are using them in our art. We're using them to make meaning out of. First, we're always asking, what does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? And of course, what it means to you is totally subjective. This is not about what does it mean to the world. What does it mean in your movie? This is about your movie in your theater. So what does this mean? And then you can turn it around and up and down. And the more symbolically literate you are, the more you can interpret this and go, oh, okay, that's what this event means. That's what this thing means. That's what this occurrence means. That's what this dream means. That's what this thing this person said means. Oh, okay, I get it. Now you have something for your art. Like Melissa and I, we had this story of Will and Faith, the alchemical couple. And so what we did, and what I continue to do, is take those experiences, those little nuggets, those gold nuggets, and then those become events and inputs into our story, right? Our fictional, semi-fictional story. So we put it into our story, but you can put it into your paintings, you can put it into your music, you can put it into anything you want to. But you're making art out of your own gnosis, right? What else are you going to do with it? So we're doing that. I talked about this earlier. We sit at the edge of society and culture watching. We look at the scenes, the symbols, the characters, and ask, what does this mean? I just covered that. We carve out a custom life for ourselves. Yeah, this is what we talked about earlier. We do not go with the mainstream. We go with our daimon, our true vocation of inner development and sacred artistry. That's a pretty good sentence. We carve out a custom life for ourselves. We do not go with the mainstream. We go with our daimon, our true vocation of inner development and sacred artistry. That's our religion. That's our religion. Our sacred artistry is our personal religion. So that's what we're doing. We experience many of the same life path initiations and difficulties as anyone, but we reform ourselves by inner alchemy and the counsel of other alchemists. So when we experience life path initiations, difficulties on the path, we're not running to the doctor. We're not looking in the phone book for a psychiatrist, right? We're highly self-reliant in that way. And when it gets real tough, we do need counsel. We do need help. We do need others on the path. And so we go to the people who are as close to our foundation as we can find. And they have shown themselves, they show themselves. There are always helpers, and they will get you down the road a little further, and they will mirror you a little bit. It's one of the things I do for people. And so those people are around, and we go to those people, but we learn that when we go into the matrix for some kind of help, some kind of assistance, that what comes back out of that doesn't click, doesn't work. It can even harm us terribly even. So we kind of have to stay within our own kind, so to speak. Our path and role must be understood, identified with, and discussed publicly. While we know that an identity can be a trap, it's important to recognize what you are when you feel estranged from society. So what I'm saying here is, like, me talking about this publicly and me saying, this is the shaman, this is the alchemist, this is the sacred life artist, no matter how sloppy that might be, I'm attempting to identify what this role is, what this kind of person is, what this kind of life path is, and kind of pin it down so that those of us, because this is highly esoteric or has been, and there's not that many of us, and so it's important that we recognize what this is, who we are, what we're here to do, and support each other, and say, yes, that's why I'm different, is because I'm in this role. And once you've recognized, I talked about this earlier, once you've recognized that you are different and that you are in this sacred role, and you've been able to kind of pull back off the savior complex, the grandiosity, the narcissism that says that you have to go out and save the world now. You need support. You need to know what you are and be able to talk about it, identify it, and you need to be good at what you do. You need to have a level of competence to where you're always learning, you're always developing. Life and the greater psyche is always throwing you for a loop. You never know. You're never up to speed on what's coming next. But you develop a sense of competence that whatever comes at me, I'll be able to handle it, because I've been doing the work. And so that's important. That's very, very important, to take the work seriously, so that you always have that sense of competence that whatever it is that comes at you, you're going to be able to handle it. This path has its own ethics. I have pointed out many times that Erich Neumann, who was one of Carl Jung's colleagues, students, then colleagues, one of the greatest Jungians, wrote this book after World War II called Depth Psychology and a New Ethic. And he described a lot of what I would say are the ethics of the alchemist, of the modern shaman, of the sacred life artist, of these ways of being we're discussing here. And on the Shadow Tech Alchemy YouTube channel that you're looking now at, there is this video, a paraphrased version of that book, Depth Psychology and a New Ethic. And you could look at that. There's a transcript that goes with it too. It's a complicated book, but the basic idea is that those of us who are on the individuation path, who are on the inner alchemy path, we have to, our highest ethic, one of our highest ethics, I'll say, is that we do our shadow work. That we're constantly doing our shadow work, we're working on our complexes, and we're constantly self-analyzing and working on our reactivity and working on our scapegoating and our tendency to project onto other people and onto other groups. And we're taking that very, very seriously. And then from there's others. And I wrote out this, what I believe are ethical guidelines that probably most people on this path, when they get to a certain place, will probably agree with mostly. Not saying you have to use it, but and that was a document that I put out in 2017. It's still floating around. It's on the articles page. There's an article on shadowtechalchemy.com. There's an article in the articles link that is called Write Your Manifesto of Ethics. And then it gives mine as an example. It's also in the Transforming Darkness book. And you'll see a lot of these kinds of ethics that come from this way of being, this self-aware, alchemical way of being. It's in there. And I do recommend that everybody, look at that document, and so that you can use that as an example and then put it away and then write your own ethics. Or write them before you even look at my document. Do your best to write all your what are the guidelines that you live by? Morals and ethics are similar terms. Morals are more related to religious tradition, and ethics are more secular, but similar type of meaning. And so what are the guidelines? What are the boundaries, societal and personal boundaries and guidelines that you live by, and that you will always come back to no matter what? Write those down. Then look at mine, see if any of mine fit with yours, and then just keep updating that when you need to, so you are aware of what your ethical guidelines are. Because the alchemist can't just take the Christian or the Muslim or the Jewish or the Buddhist guidelines and just take them and be like, those are mine now. No, we're individuators. We're figuring it out for ourselves. Now, that doesn't mean we need a lot of those ethics, those morals are so old. The basic morals of our civilization are so old they even go into the animal kingdom, right? So we cannot say that you just throw those out, but you do have to evolve them to some degree. And then I already said, this is the last thing on my list. I don't try now to fix the world or fix others anymore. I just make art and speak of my own experiences, and all is going according to plan. Now, I do have that tendency, as you've heard through this whole hour that I've been talking, to kind of preach. And so I have to kind of keep an eye on that. And I'm always like giving caveats and all of that kind of stuff. So that does tend to come out, but I'm always reminding myself, this is just my thing. This is just my path. This is just my life art. And your mileage may vary. So I think I've kind of gone through what the notes were and said what I wanted to say for today. And so yeah, so that'll be good. And now, if you guys want to, I see there's a couple comments from some folks, and thank you guys for participating and for commenting and for hanging out while I give these monologues or whatever we call them. And if you guys have any input on any of that, or any kind of comment or question, I'd be happy to respond. So let me say hi to everybody on the chat, and I am Her Eminence. Is that Mary? Is that Mary? Is that who? What your handle is? She was a beautiful soul. Yes, Melissa. Yeah, Melissa is just Saint Mari. That's what I call her now. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Theo. Hit the like button. Oh yeah, I should start telling people, hit the like button. Right? This is what all the other YouTubers do. Subscribe and hit the like button. I never say that. This might be the first time I've ever said that. But yes, absolutely. By the way, Theo, I got your music, and I liked your music. And like I said before, I'm not really a hip hop consumer, but you're putting your art, you're putting your gnosis into music, you're having a great time doing it, you're sharing it with other people, and just keep doing it. Keep doing it, keep getting better at it, increasing the quality of it, and making it more diverse, and doing everything that you do for the rest of your life, obviously. And so I absolutely encourage that. I'm really glad that you're doing that. And Caroline, hi Caroline. I completely agree with staying in the artist role. That has been a very strong message for me. Yeah, you know. Sarah says, thanks for hitting the like button, Sarah. And yes, we all love Melissa. So Caroline, let's see. Oh yeah, still love her. Listen, like I was saying in the beginning of the show, I have this Mari trust now. I've got a whole list of all the projects of pulling together all of Melissa's material and putting that out for people, and having this Melissa Mari TV, which is going to stream Melissa Mari all the time. So you keep following me, you're going to get to know Melissa very well, everybody that didn't know her. But Caroline, yes, so about staying in the art mode, and different people who are on the wounded healer path, the shamanic path, the alchemist path, in some way or another, or they're, you know, I want to separate. I want to say something here. There are people who are interested in the shamanic path. They're interested in the esoteric path. They're scholars of it. We need those people. We need those scholars. And to a degree, what they're doing is creating art, because all scholarship is art to a degree. And you're putting yourself into everything that you put out, and you're filtering everything through yourself. But that is not the shaman or the alchemist itself. The scholar, the researcher, is a necessary role, but it's not the shaman itself. The artist, though, the artist proper is a lot closer. The artist is a sub-role of the shaman, a sub-role of the alchemist. And there are people who are great artists, and they really don't put a whole bunch of that much spirituality into what they do. And they don't even use their art cathartically that much. You know, they work for corporations or whatever. You know, an architect is definitely an artist, and they're contacting the unconscious, and they're pulling stuff out, and they're using the creative process. It's beautiful, of course. But it's not really the artiste, and it's not really the sacred artist or the spiritual artist or the alchemical artist, and it doesn't really have a shamanic function until that architecture turns into some kind of sacred architecture, right? Like the Masons who were making the Gothic cathedrals, right? That's where architecture then makes it into the sacred and has a shamanic function. And so the artist, what I was going to say is that there are ways of being under this shamanic umbrella or this alchemical umbrella, and falling to this side or to that side and being a little bit less or more of an artist. The artist is always mixed in there, but you can have mystics that are not really practicing art all the time, and you can have self-healers and healers and people who fit under this umbrella who aren't as focused on art. So I don't say that the artist proper is the highest version of the shamanic archetype, but it is very, very intertwined with it. And it is the case that in a world like we have, where this role is not understood or has been demoted, it is the artist, is the spiritual artist, the artiste, who is really probably more in touch with the shamanic function than probably most other people. So it does this, the artists do tend to kind of go in this direction. And a lot of artists are wounded, and they're using art cathartically. And so the wounded people are the ones who need to do the work. So they're the ones that become the self-healers, become the inner alchemists. So the art path is very, very connected to this whole shamanic thing that I've been talking about. And so I just encourage people who are artists to always just keep going deeper and deeper and using their art for spiritual purposes and becoming more and more symbolically literate and putting their own dreams and putting their own psyches into it, using the alchemical maxim, as above, so below. Find the intersection between your own impulse, between your own tendency, between your own inner pattern and something out there in the society. And this is really easy to understand when you talk about the shadow. So you find something out there in the society that is very triggering and very dark, and you get reactive to it, and you realize this is something very shadowy in society. Well, now you can just say, where is that in me? Where is that in me? And then you can explore the inner version of that shadow property in the society. You can explore that in yourself, and then you can make art out of that exploration. See that? You can find something very light and beautiful out there, and then find it in yourself and make art out of that too. But the shadow one is really kind of very shamanic and cannot be bypassed. The artist should never try to bypass the shadow and focus all of their art on something angelic and light and pure and have no space for processing shadow, when art is so obviously part of shadow work and alchemy. So yes, and so anyway, we could very easily just say art is a primary function of this path. Message received from Theo. That's great. Yep, keep doing it. What I just said right there. You heard what I just said right there about inner, outer, finding the connection between the inner and the outer, the macrocosm and the microcosm, and then meditating on it, turning that around. Like I keep going like this with my hand because like I have a jewel in my hand. It's got facets. And so I look at the different facets. Oh, there's this facet, there's this view, there's this view, there's this view. Turn it around, turn it around. So where is that thing in me? Where's that thing in my father? Where's that thing in my mother? Where's that thing in my grandparents? Where's that thing in my family? Where's that thing in my community? Where's that thing in mythology? Where's that thing in my dreams? Oh, okay, I've looked at it in all these different ways. Now let me make art out of it. And let me give that art to the world. Right? That's what we're doing. How much more incredible would our outer world be if there were, instead of 0.0001% of artist alchemists in the world doing this, that it was more like 5%, right? More like 5%. It's never going to be the majority. But what if it was 5%? That'd probably be about right. And what if our society actually appreciated and recognized this artistic shamanic function and supported it, understood it, and supported it, right? Because like we were talking about earlier, this difficulty of trying to, straddle the inner and the outer and be an outsider so that you can be a proper artist, a proper alchemist, and then also have to integrate into the world and get a job and all that kind of stuff and pay your auto payment and all that kind of matrix stuff. There's all kinds, just think of all the ways in which corporations and nonprofits and political action committees and all these people and groups and entities get free money, right? And then the artist alchemists just sit in a ditch trying to figure out, how to stay alive and how to stay on the path. I mean, how reversed is that? I mean, that is total Kali Yuga Dark Age shit, is what that is. So, but that's where we're at. And of course, if more people started recognizing this, then you'd have more charlatans. Then you'd have more we already have so many charlatans and fakers on this path. Then we'd have a lot more of them. But after a while, after another 1,000 years or so, then we'll be at a hopefully higher stage of consciousness, and there will be less people interested in being parasites. So, what else have you guys got for me? Have you got anything else? Where are we here? We're at 9:30. And I might go a little bit early tonight because I'm just starving. I don't even have any water. I forgot to bring my water. And I thought we had a good show. I think I made my point pretty well. And but I want to keep talking to you guys if you have some more that you want to bring up, and we'll work through it. And I'm always going to keep floating the movie. Yeah, so here's, again, go to this website, go to this link, shadowtechalchemy.com/resources. And I've been putting good documents, PDFs and stuff, and there's a link to the film about Melissa at the top where you'll see the passcode and all that stuff. That's there. Or you just click the link and it takes you right in, I think. But definitely, shadowtechalchemy.com/resources. Okay, Theo says, it took us 6,000 years to get to this point, and human beings have been on Earth for 1 million. This is our 160 or so cycle of this shit. Yeah. I don't know if all that stuff about the Kali Yuga and all that is true, but it's probably something like that. The more I've looked at that, and the more I've looked, the obvious fact of cycles, and you look back and the more we look at this ancient archaeology that's popping up, the more we see there were advanced people of a different mindset, but advanced on this planet before us. And so, that Hindu idea of the Yuga cycles does make sense, and different societies have talked about that. Obviously, the Mayans, but yeah. So we're definite, but we're in some kind of, whether it's the we're not, you know, I don't know whose map to look at. If you look at, you know, what was that guy's name? Walter Cruttenden. What was his project called? His book was called Dark Star of Myth and Time. The Sirius Project, Sirius, like the star Sirius. And it was a theory that basically we're in a binary orbit. Our sun is in a binary orbit with the star Sirius, which is very important to ancient civilizations, especially the Egyptians, and but others. And we're in this binary orbit, and then as we sweep around, and as this thing, you know, here's the basically the Dark Ages is when our sun and Sirius are the farthest apart from each other. And then when Sirius comes around, the whole electromagnetic environment changes. And that's where you get the Yuga cycle out of. The orientation of human consciousness is cycling in and out because it's related to this I guess, bath of electromagnetic energy that's coming off of the relationship with Sirius. It's a theory. But I read that book, I don't know, 15 years ago or something, 20, yeah, more than that even. And it feels right. Who knows, who can say? But we're definitely in a low point in terms of our psychospirituality. And so it makes this kind of a lonely job. But that's what my job is. That's what you heard. That's what Melissa's job was, is to help awaken the other alchemists, talk about it, because, you know, we know what we are. And so there has to be people out there that are saying, okay, this is what this role is. This is what this job is. This is what this is all about. This is what we do. This is why we suffer. This is why we stay on the path. And it's about the evolution of human consciousness. It's about healing ourselves. It's about waking ourselves up. You could say it's about our karma, if you want to say that too. You could say it's about soul contracts, if you want to say that. But it's also about the evolution of humanity itself. And this is why it's very important, in my view, that those of you who take this seriously document your process and create your own trust. It's like I have the Mari Trust, and it's holding everything that Melissa did and everything that I did with her and that I will do after that pertains to this work, to the great work. So this is all in this trust. So this will be maintained through my lifetime and then passed on, and then somebody else will maintain it and it'll be passed on. And who knows, it could get lost or whatever. But I'm doing my best to make sure that everything that came out of that container and that will continue to come out of my alchemical life that I lead will have a place. That art of whatever form will make its way into that trust, and that will be passed on. And so that's my lab, that's my that's my alchemical laboratory, and my experiments and the product of that laboratory is being saved and for posterity. And so what you're doing in your laboratory is important. And you will know intuitively that which is important to hold on to and what needs to make it into the vault. And then start collecting it up. Your journaling is important. Everything is important. Your dream journal, your normal journal, all your documentation, the conversations that you have with people, the audio recordings that you make into your phone, you know, all that stuff. Back up all that stuff. Start backing up, get some USB hard drives and just back up all the good stuff. Name everything properly so that you can find it later. And then what you're going to be able to do, which you can already do to some extent, but within 5 to 10 years for sure, you will be able to take your whole hard drive, you know, whatever, however many terabytes of stuff, that's come out of your lab, your process. And you'll be able to give instructions. I mean, it already can do it now, but I'm just saying it'll be really easy in a number of years. Give instructions to the computer to basically say, go through all of this and organize this for me. And here's the stuff to leave out, and here's the stuff to keep, and all of that. And let's pull this together and let's make this master archive. And you'll be able to put audio files in there and notes and art and everything, all of that, songs, everything. You'll be able to put that in there. And this program will just scan this hard drive or multiple hard drives, and it will just grab everything according to your instructions. It'll ask you questions. Do you want to keep this? Do not, whatever. And then you will put away all of that stuff, and you'll pass that on to your children or to other alchemists, or you'll put it in a trust, or maybe you and I, we will have sort of a library, like a library of Alexandria, where basically we'll all have our own little slot where we'll put our archives of our sacred life art. And then we'll pass on this library to further generations so people can look at this project. In fact, that just came to me. I knew I was going to do it, but I didn't think that maybe I was going to help you guys do it too. So that's probably going to happen now. That's probably going to happen. This Mari trust might actually, now that I realize this, might actually extend to more people than just us. It might be, in fact, I'm pretty sure that's probably going to happen now. You see how that comes? You see how it just shows up like that? That's the right thing to do. Of course, that's the right thing to do. So that's what it'll be. First is me to get it down for myself and Melissa. And then after a few years or however long it takes to get this main material together, then I can start, basically I'll give out a protocol for how to keep track of everything. And then there'll be a space, and then you can put your stuff there. It's like how people keep their gold in a custodian's account. And so then you'll be able to put your gold in there, basically. And it probably should extend past the digital domain into the physical domain, just like gold. So there will be, a library of just digitized stuff. And then there will be a locator number that will take you to physical storage where people will leave their physical art, right? The physical records, the CDs, the paintings, whatever they want to put into the archive. And then we'll get some philanthropist to pay for it, right? So there we go. I'm going to write that down. And right there, it's right there. Mari Trust equals me and Melissa plus all alchemists who want to participate. All right, everybody. So where are we? We are now. Yeah, well. Let's shut down for tonight. And we had a good show. Yeah, astrologers swear by that kind of stuff. Yeah, some do. The ones we like do. If anybody has anything more to say before we go, throw it in there. Thank you again for listening. Yes, hit like and subscribe. That's true. If you know anybody else that's on the alchemy path, that's on the path of sacred life artistry, we're calling it, that wants to be around other people who are on this path, or hear about my experiences and hear about Melissa and what we did and all of that, always the place to go is shadowtechalchemy.com and pick around and see what you could find there. And my Facebook page is on there. I'm not using Instagram anymore. I never really did use Instagram. It's just a pile of garbage. All social media is really boring to me now. I barely spend any time on there. But I do use my Facebook page a couple times a week. I go on there, put something on there. I release my papers on there, and you know, I still do use it, but I'm not there hanging out that much. Good night, Sarah. Thanks for hanging out the whole time with me. I appreciate it. I hope everything's going well with you. And stay in touch with me, please. So there we go. All right, everyone. ShadowTechAlchemy.com, and I will see you on next Tuesday. And if anybody came in later, start it over again. It'll start over again right now, and you can watch that trailer for the film about Melissa and catch the show from the beginning. So thanks again, and I'll see you guys very soon.